right, folks, good morning. Welcome on back here this Friday morning, 7/11, actually, July 11th. Great to have all of our students and members back inside our live trading room. Margaret, Grant, later on, got all of them there with us. I am not a hot mess. I'm just a mess this morning. Actually, give me a second to explain why. Great to have all of us back on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, etc. Bottom left popping up right there. Subscribe right down below at Cyber Trading U. Not meaning for this to be such a casual Friday this morning. I'm in like kind of a slop t-shirt. Well, I came in with a nice polo, but then I realized about 1 or 2 minutes before I went live here with you, I'm like, man, this like thing looks kind of trippy. Like when you're on the webcam, I don't know. Maybe it's not showing as well now, but it was like freaking me out. There you go. It looks like a green screen. I was like, all right, I got to switch shirts there. Then right before I jump on, I take a sip of water. I start choking on my water. Of course. All right. So not about me. It's all about us here. So that said, the ABVE trade, at least to begin, this has been phenomenal for us, at least in pre-market hours this morning, but it was also good from yesterday. This stock was like 43 cents a share as early as yesterday morning at like 9:30. So it's up 1,000%, right? It's up like a little around 1,000%, 900%. I would expect for this to come back down at some point, right? You know, you would have expected it for it to come back down at some point here as it was just moving up higher. Even after 10:30 in the morning, it ended up beginning to, break out above 165, but it peaked around 2, a little higher from there, but came back down. And then now at this stage, well, just exploded overnight. What's the news out on this company? Let's figure that out at least here. For a stock to go up over 1,000%, let's figure out why it's up so much. So this is all we got here. This is the news that we got at least here. Rise 130% after hours session. Let's see, anything here? Any like actual news, or is this just, just like short covering or maybe some insider buying or whatnot? Looks like following its merger agreement with Palm Global on Monday. That was on Monday. Today's Friday. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the news hit late or something. Had a big move back going into the end of April, then afterwards dumped back down. And then even here, I guess it did have some move back on Monday this week where it gapped up. It tanked, though, and this thing's been through the spin cycle. Like I like to say, you go through like the laundry machine, the dryer. It's like the spin cycle. So up and down, this thing has gone through, and it's up over 1,000% from yesterday morning. You got to figure at some point this is going to come back down. That's where I was messaging just a student earlier who was talking to me about a position they're in from like around $4, 406, and just saying to them, like, be careful, because for it to be up as much as it is, people are going to sell off going into the weekend. Imagine you being in this trade from 43 freaking cents. Then, all of a sudden it's Friday morning. You got some plans coming up for the weekend. You want to celebrate with your friends or family, whatever, a little treat. Well, you want to take the money, right? So not a bad idea to do that. But what happened here was you ended up seeing this order on the bid show up for about 44,000 shares, right at $3.89. It ended up laddering up, and something happened here where they pulled, they disappeared for a bit. But you know what's happening? Oh, now it's tanking. Now we're dropping. I was going to say, like, it was interesting. It was like still kind of holding for a little bit. We had resistance here at 414, 415. But listen, if it's not going to keep with that trend of higher lows at the bare minimum, done. So hopefully there's going to be other trades going down the gainers list here in just a moment that, will treat us pretty nicely. We don't need to put this on our watch list. But with that in mind, this was one of the better trades that we did catch. Now, from yesterday, we did extremely well. The market was not only breaking higher, and of course, me, I'll get to Bitcoin in just a bit. But, otherwise, though, we did pretty nicely on the SQNS stock. Stock ended up making like a pretty good breakout heading into the early to mid-afternoon, at least here from 250, resistance off of 290-ish, 289, 290, just triple top there pretty much, then breakout. Hey, nice move heading into the close, but now at this point, you don't expect it to keep it continuing. So if this wants to make another big move for us, let it prove itself to us in that regard, right? We don't need to keep trading this, just like the same thing with the ABVE. All right, now aside from that, we did pretty good on just like some name brand stocks. Of course, we'll get to Tesla down the line here as well, but UAL, nice move up. I think Delta had good earnings. They reaffirmed their guidance. So Delta was like the one coming off news, but UAL was actually the one that I think was up the most. If not that, then AAL, both or all did pretty nicely. Let me ask anyone here on YouTube, social media, or if you're just inside our live trading room, anyone fly JetBlue? Anyone fly JetBlue at all? I don't mean to disrespect anyone there if I don't mention JetBlue. It's just that the stock is not a good mover. The stock is slow, stagnant, and they're like in talks with like Spirit, Frontier. Remember that? That was in like the last year and a half, couple of years. So they don't really have as good of a long-term graph. UAL is a pretty decent one for what it's worth. Americans, little but Delta is by far the best, or it has been the best for a little while. I think it will continue to go back up over time. So, wow, not a lot of us on Delta on JetBlue. All right, there you go. At least I'm not insulting too many of us. So, no, at least with that said, the airlines did pretty nicely. We're not going to focus on them for today, though. Hertz from the morning. Hertz was a nice trade, at least early on. Who gave that call out? Was that Leda? One of our ladies in the trading room gave that call out there. I think it may have been Leda there, perhaps. I apologize if I forgot there incorrectly, but ended up making a nice little squeeze up off of 750, ran up beautifully, well over 8, flipped that into support even here at this point before the reversal time, and then obviously right around reversal time, just kind of finished its move and then came back down. So listen, let it prove itself to us. If it pops back up again, it's only trading 13,000 shares in pre-market. So, hey, you knew I was going to mention this here too by the end of this meeting. We just came out with a YouTube video just overnight regarding trading views. So, just criteria. It's not just price. It's not just even trend, but how about just volume? Volume will play into trend because pretty much if there's no volume, there's no activity on the chart. But point being is that this only has 13,000 shares throughout all of the pre-market hours. It's not something I'm focused on for today. Now let's get to Tesla. So Tesla, of course, had a pretty good squeeze up. Elon kept running his mouth going into the end of last week, beginning of this week. So it led to a big drop, couple of gaps. But listen, Tesla as a product is phenomenal. So, for as much as I was just saying that all throughout the last week or two, probably the last month I've been saying that, he really needs to shut his mouth. But don't be insulted by that. If you're an investor, you should be pissed by what he's saying. You should be insulted by him because, not really too many CEOs or leaders of a company like this are talking this much, going into the drama, the politics, obviously, whether you're right or wrong, right? It's just to say, sometimes you just need to be a little quiet, stay on the down low a little bit. You want to know why Larry Ellison and Oracle is doing so nice? Because you don't hear much from him. So at least going back to Tesla, they have a great product, right? You got to say that at least, even if you don't like Elon. So they ended up making a couple of good day trade moves here. Then obviously yesterday, the better of them. So going back to the intraday graph, the Tesla trade from the morning session popped, then heading into the mid to late afternoon. Beautiful, steady runner. Pretty much right off of 300, 301, then pushed up to 310. You want to focus on your $5 and $10 levels for Tesla. 300, 305, 310, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I'm not going to put this on our main special watch list for today. It's not going back up just yet, at least. So, if it does, we'll obviously call it out, but for the time being, we'll pass. Now, we also got Bitcoin, right? So, of course, BTC USD, this was flying yesterday. This was ripping all throughout the overnight session into yesterday morning, then obviously all throughout the day yesterday into last night. So we're getting close to that 120 level that I was shouting out to you, right? Remember yesterday in the afternoon, about like 15, 16 hours ago, I'll just say, we had resistance we were talking about here at 120, but I was even hypothesizing as I still have my rectangle, 125. Focus on your quarter century. So quarter millennium, quarter 100,000, whatever that is. But just to say, 120, 125,000, to me, that's the next major area of resistance. Wouldn't shock me if we get that move or that first break above 120 by today. And if it's not by today, then maybe by Sunday night, perhaps even. So we'll see. Now going back to like IBIT, because you don't need to focus on Bitcoin itself to trade Bitcoin related stocks or tickers. You got IBIT, you got Coin, which let me get my pre-market data back up here. I knew something was off. There we go. All right, so IBIT, this looks really strong going into the open in terms of just like, up from yesterday. It's up nearly 5% actually. So normally I wouldn't focus on stocks like, up 2, 3, whatever percent. I'll at least throw it on our watch list for right now. You got Coinbase, not up as much percentage wise, but great move off of yesterday too. This is getting pretty close to all-time highs. So something to keep in mind going into the next couple of weeks. We've been talking about Coinbase and Robinhood, namely, as the two main Bitcoin companies, I'd say. You can go with MicroStrategy, but kind of like with Elon and Tesla, it's not that Michael Saylor says anything controversial or like needs to really shut his mouth, but a little polarizing. Even if you like crypto, you may not be the biggest Saylor person. You might like him, might hate him. So going back to like Robinhood, though, I think that a lot more people are on the verge of loving Robinhood than anything. So they're a pretty healthy company, and at least for right now, although they had a pretty good move yesterday, they had a pretty sharp drop in the after hours, huh? Did any news come out on that or no? Let's just take a look. I mean, they're right back on up this morning, pretty much. So I'm not too concerned. Just that was a pretty interesting drop. So their promotions are probed by the Florida AG. Okay, so that's a little news headline there from Bloomberg yesterday afternoon at 5 o'clock. So hey, when I hold my water bottle, sometimes I don't know what to do with my hands if I'm on webcam. So I got to take that sip pretty quick. All right, so let's keep going through though. Otherwise, what else we got here? Anything else good from yesterday? That was pretty much it, right? We went through Hertz, Tesla, the Coinbase stuff or Bitcoin stuff. Otherwise, we got the airlines. All right, cool. So let's just go right from top to bottom here, see what we could build up for the open. Let's see. So INKT. This almost looks like a buyout in terms of how it flattened out much afterwards here, and maybe not at first. Right back to Benzinga Pro we go here. So let's just take one more look. We got Newsman Levitan here today for you. What was that one? INKT. Inc. T. Therapeutics announced a publication on an oncogene. Okay, so I guess that's pretty much it. Not much more to it otherwise. So it seemed like it just flattened out a lot though, right? So felt like a buyout for a little bit. It's up a lot though from yesterday. Geez, up 200%. So whatever article they wrote, what they cured, like cancer or something, that'd be pretty cool. But otherwise, huge squeeze up. I'll put it on our list because it's not a buyout, right? If it was, I wouldn't put it on our list. It's not a buyout. So we'll see if we could try and break higher, at least get back over 25 bucks, $5 level there. All right, SGN signing day sports, right? There we go. So a company that we're very familiar with here at CTU. Check out our YouTube channel as well for that, because I know Fausto just did a podcast over the last couple of months with their CEO. So we're well connected with a few different publicly traded companies, and SGN one of them. Check that out actually on our YouTube channel right there. So at Cyber Trading U. But otherwise, big move even from yesterday. I think it had a pretty little. It was an interesting move at first. They dumped back down, but maybe someone was just in the know at first there, and they knew something ahead of time, because whatever happened, big pop. Figure why not? One more time at least here. Right back to Benzinga. We love them. So SGN, what do we got? Trading higher after the company announced it has made advancements regarding its business combination with one blockchain. One blockchain. So if that's like the company I'm familiar with, one, it's like a crypto token. Nothing really too big, honestly. So this might be an overblown reaction. But to be transparent, for as many different little pop and drop moves as we've had here over time, perhaps there could be a larger short squeeze coming up ahead. Who knows? So I'll add this to our watch list as well. The SGN, the ABVE, not so much right now. As long as that's still trending down, we'll pass. Hollow, I at least know the news for Hollow. I don't need to go back to Benzinga for this one. So they ended up getting some news with Bitcoin, right? I think they made like a $300 million investment or something like that. It has purchased up to $200 million in Bitcoin and currency-related securities, derivatives, blah, 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 blah. All right, cool. So, I mean, at least it led to a pop at first. Now, at that point, though, it led to a much better move up, though, heading into like this meeting, the 9 o'clock meeting here. So we like it now more than ever. So I'm going to put this on our watch list for the open. Also a stock that hasn't been a great swing trade over time, as you could see. So it's likely just a short squeeze off the news. I don't really have a great level, not really too great of a level for us to try and utilize here. I'm kind of plucking here straws, but 850, 890 or so, somewhere around there. Where's it at right now? Like basically 10. Yeah, so if it drops down here this morning, wouldn't shock me if it kind of pulls into this area again, maybe. And that's like kind of a tougher level for me to just use. I'm kind of just going quick. So, if there was an easier to see level, I would have a lot more confidence in that, but we'll still see if that can happen. FTFT, I think this was also a Bitcoin related stock years and years and years back, like 4 years ago, pretty much last cycle, this stock traded. Big pop overnight. I'm not going to go back to the news on it at least, but If it could break out of this downtrend that it has built for the last, what, 5 hours? Holy shit. This thing has been trending down for the last 5 hours. So wherever I tell, our students inside our classes, not even our live trading room, hey, what's the trend of the stock leading into the open? I think the answer is here, right? So it looks like it's trying to base out a little bit, maybe a little bump and run right now. So I'll add it. Not my favorite, but we'll add it. It's tradable at least. All right, what else we got? LMFA pass, Gauze pass, RCAT. We like this one actually. Coming off yesterday where we ended up trading Jobby. I forgot to go over that briefly. JOBY had a good move. Archer, not as much, but went with it. Ondis popped yesterday and is trying to go back up again this morning. RCAT is another eVTOL drone air taxi esque based company. We traded them back at the end of last year, popped it pretty nicely from like 5 up to 15. Came back down, obviously, as you see. So nice move overnight here. I'm going to add the RCAT for sure. The ONDS, as we just kind of jumped to this one. I kind of like this one. I'll put this on our list for right now. It's up 6 to 7%, trying to go back up towards yesterday's highs. The Jobby we like. If this pops better after the open, I'm sure I'll call it out. And same with Archer, but just we're going to focus on the others first. All right, BTCT, BTCS, all of these stocks are super low float. We traded them once over the last year. Once. It was like this year at the time. I mean, maybe we traded like the other day, but I don't even remember this pop actually from the other day this week. We've actually had a pretty active week, considering all things, given that we don't really have too many earnings that came out this week, considering we didn't really have too many like economic events this week, Bitcoin blasting to make new highs. We actually traded a lot of different stocks, but I don't remember this. So I'll bring it over back to like November 11th, November 12th. This is the time that we traded this one here. BTCS came up, came back down. It's a pop and drop trade. So I don't really like it just yet. Let it prove itself to us. Probably hear me say that quite often going forward, but UMAC starting to at least there. So I don't mind adding UMAC for right now, though. Also, hey, we got IBIT on our watch list. We also got Ethereum, right? Ethereum's up more percentage-wise overnight. So ETHE, I'll just slap on our list alongside the IBIT. They're going to go hand in hand together over this week. Anything else here, folks? Looking good. And there's the Ondis trade. There we go. Just down to 5%. All right, we'll hop over to the losers side. Anything looking good from the losers here, we'll just take a look at. Then again, from Brad, Kathleen, Rich, Michael, Sam, all of us here inside our live trading room, you let me know if there's anything else that you'd want me to look at before we finish up. Capper, I don't really like the stock. Nothing against the company, really, just as a piss poor day trade. It is a bad stock to day trade. Not even talking about this. I'm talking about like this. Never broke out of its shell going up until this year. So whatever news came out, down big, 41% this morning. We're not going to focus on it, really. It's hard to borrow. Can't short it. And honestly, listen, I filtered this out based off volume. All of this is hard to borrow. There is nothing here from the loser side that stands out to me. No name brand stocks that are down. I wouldn't expect that for that to be the case really as much. Market's not down too much, from yesterday. And considering all things, we're still in a pretty bullish market here, aren't we? So that's where I'll tell you, I probably wouldn't expect to find too many shorts. All right, last call here from all of us here in our chat board. Kathleen on CLSK, which I'll get to first, but actually I forgot. Yeah, Mara is up a little bit, Kathleen, right? So CLSK is up a little bit. Mara's up, I think, more. Or maybe not. Maybe I lied there. I thought Mara was up more. Maybe it was earlier this morning, but they're up a little bit. If they have their day in the sun today, we'll call them out accordingly. They're tradable. So it's not like they're not tradable. It's not like they're crazy spreads. And I know you know that. Just say that to all of our students, though, otherwise, and newer members. But there's probably a lot of stocks that are up 2, 3, 3.5% that maybe possibly, potentially we could follow. And all of those words are pretty ambiguous to me, right? So even Iron here too. Iron's the one that has by far the best long-term graph. So perhaps this has the best chance of popping up, Bill. But I'll even keep this on the sideline for right now. All right, let's see here. Great to see all of us just here on the YouTubes again. I always forget names if you're just using the username right there. So Judge Shaq, great to have you once again, Leda. And then otherwise, yeah, the hollow trade popping off that news with Bitcoin. All right, so last call, folks. Let me know if anything else looks good. Go over Benzinga Pro here, and then we'll finish up. Yeah, Hollow is still trying to make a little pop. It's up 5% in the last 5 minutes, even here. That's what the scan means. CVM, possibly. We'll take a look there. So just go over back to Hollow. There it is. And then the CVM. Yeah, this one's popping up right now. All right, cool. So CVM will just kind of slip on our watch list for the time being. Kind of a late pop, late bloomer for right now. And yeah, we'll edit. I thought there was one more at least, though, on our watch list, right? I thought there was at least one more. What do we got? Maybe Wolf? Wolfie? Nah, it's only up 1%, 2%. That's all. So pass. All right. So for all of us here, Kerry, Margaret, Michael, Brad, Kathleen, got all of us here. Got Lynn and Grant and Scott and Lawrence and all of us just otherwise. We'll be back on in about 8 or 7 minutes going into the market open. So just give us a short while. We'll be back on. If you're on social media, hey, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, etc. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here we go. We ended up just posting a video overnight here regarding TradingView screener pretty much. So going over just at least as far as what to look for on TradingView, their screener, their scanner feature. Definitely take a look. If you use it, even if you don't use it, you might not like your scanner on your platform. If you're on TradeStation, Thinkorswim, Webull, Fidelity, you name it. I mean, hey, we're broker neutral here at CTU, and you know me, I use TradeStation. I like TradeStation. But it's just to tell you, if you don't like your scanner, there's a few different free websites that offer exceptional scanner platforms, and TradingView is one of them. So definitely have the time over this weekend at least to watch this video. Also, leave a like and leave a comment as well. Also helps us out here, and we'll also look to respond back and give advice, answer any follow-up questions that you may have. From Robert here, let's see, Tesla product of their Optimus robot. Yeah, 100,000 in the first year. That's what they're projecting. Then $1 million a year. Geez, I'd rather not have $1 million a year, Robert. Let's have it a little less than that. I don't want like some iRobot situation happening. You know what I mean? You ever seen that movie with Will Smith? All right, folks. Hey, I think that we're going to wrap up the CVM. There we go. Nice breakout. There we go. We were early to the punch, I guess. So, hey, best of luck going into the open. If you're on social media, have a great weekend otherwise. You get Fausto back on Monday. You don't got my ugly mug back on Monday. At least you'll get Fausto at least there. And then otherwise, Grant, Gillis, Robert, etc., all of our students. Stay tuned. Like I'd mentioned before, I'll be back on in just a few minutes. Take care.